Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Broom Brothers. Another episode here, the official podcast of the Grand Slam of Curling and the Curling Group. John Cullen with you as always, and my esteemed partner, my man of strength, my new Sportsnet broadcasting friend, by the way, Robbie Doherty is here.
Thank you so much. Yes, that's true. Big week in Nisku. That was
Big week.
Unexpected call, and I was certainly grateful for it. And big thanks to my colleagues for putting up with me up there. And it was definitely a learning experience. And one for the books.
Why don't we just talk about that right away? I mean, we're going to talk about the Canadian Open. We also have a great interview coming up later in the show with brand new Grand Slam of Karaoke champion Isabella Wranå, who you and I are both learning how to say her name properly. But Wranå. You got the call into the broadcast booth. Jennifer Jones had a prior commitment. She stepped away for the weekend, was there for a few days in Nisku, and then took off. And you ended up getting the call. You did some around the rings coverage with Sportsnet on Saturday. Talk to me about that. You said you didn't know going into the event that was going to happen? Did you know? How did it go? Tell that the fans are anxiously awaiting to hear how your broadcasting debut went, Robbie.
Well, I had heard the night before there was chatter that Jennifer wasn't going to be there. I didn't know that.
Okay.
And then George, the producer and I are pretty good buddies, and we always recap the day after the day, and he ends anyway, and we make a plan for the next day in terms of who I'm interviewing and that sort of thing. And anyway, I just kind of let them know that I know they're down someone if I can help in any way, but I didn't really mean the booth. I kind of meant,
right,
if they cut in for interviews or something along those lines. And then anyway, so I arrived at the rink that morning for the noontime quarterfinals. And first of all, I run into the audio guy, Andrew Stokely, and he stops me, and Andrew's like the master. He's a technical wizard, and he starts, and I'm not. He's like, I'm a musician and a performer and all that, but I'm not a gearhead, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I should know more than I do. Put it that way.
You don't know how anything works, actually.
No, that's
sort of learning as we do this podcast together. It's like you're saying it, and people are probably like, "It's not that bad." You really don't.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Technology is not my thing. And when I bought this laptop that I'm using now, I literally asked the guy at Best Buy if it was Bluetooth compatible. And that's where my tech levels are. Anyway, nonetheless. No, Andrew stopped me, and he started talking about a callback button and a cough button and all this stuff. And I just kind of said, okay. Am I using a different microphone today? And anyway, I kind of walked in. They just said, the truck wants to see you. And they get out, and I just was told, just want to let you know, 4:00, you're going in the booth. Good luck. And they put the hand out. And, there's kind of a little clap. And but it was exciting. I found it very intimidating, next to Kevin Martin, who when I was young was my favorite curler of all time. I was Kevin Martin for Halloween.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And I was like pumped for it. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I could throw that together. It was like a September, I'm gonna be Kevin Martin.
Sure. Yeah. And, which version of Kevin were you? Were you the mulleted mustache version of Kevin?
No.
I feel like that would be.
No, didn't go that far back. I was, I'd say like 07 Kevin.
Okay.
Martin.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, when they were kind of putting the new team together with Kennedy and Hebert.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so it was, I've gone to a few Briars and got my butt kicked, that sort of thing, but certainly don't think of myself as a curling connoisseur. So it was kind of intimidating, literally sitting next to the GOAT and talking about strategy and stuff. So, but you know what? It was an experience of a lifetime, and Rob and Mike and Kevin were great for me. So big thanks to them, and big thanks to Sportsnet and the crew for the chance. Hope to do it again sometime.
Yeah, congratulations. It was very exciting. I saw when you posted it to your Instagram, because I assumed if you knew, you would have told me going in. So I just saw your post on Instagram. I was getting the news at the same time as everyone else. And I was like, wait, is this real? Like, I thought you were maybe doing like a prank. And you're like, no, I'm calling the game in like 30 minutes. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, cool.
It's usually how it works for me. Like my first time ever interviewing someone was on national television. And I've probably done play-by-play about 150 times in my life. But the first time I've ever done color was on national television. So
well,
2 for 2.
Great work. I'm really happy for you. And speaking of the Canadian Open, obviously you and I were both there for the full week in Nisku, and it feels like, usually we can talk about the two draws, the men's and the women's draw separately, but it almost feels apropos to talk about them together because Rachel Homan winning the Co-op Canadian Open, that gives her 1 slam title on the season. So your early prediction of her winning more than over 1.5 is looking pretty good right now. But Rachel Homan winning the Co-op Canadian Open, going undefeated. She's now 33-2 on the year. And then Bruce Mouat winning the Canadian Open. He's won both slams this year, went undefeated through both. 13-0 record. He has outscored his opponents in the slams 86-37. So we're seeing 2 very dominant performances on both sides of the sheet. What did you make of those two wins? And like I said, it kind of feels worthy of talking about them together because we don't usually see this kind of dominance in curling, and we don't usually see it at the same time.
No, I completely agree, John. I think the storyline, if you will, is almost the same. It's like it's a one-horse race on both sides right now. Team Mouat on the men's, Team Homan on the women's. Both are just so dialed in. And I know I use that word all the time, but that's just the best way to describe them. It's like almost autopilot. And, it's literally the question is almost like, it's not, I wonder who's going to win or who's going to be the favorite, but the question's almost turned into who's going to be the team to step up and dethrone them. I know Homan has a couple of L's, like literally on the season.
2, 1 to Constantini and 1 to Einarson, and both were at the Tour Challenge. Otherwise, she is undefeated on the season.
Yeah, and and Rachel Homan doesn't play easy games. Like it's not like Bonspiel where you can you might have one tough team in your pool and the rest is a cakewalk. Excuse me. This is the top 16 in the world, at these events, and just seeing a sports team, let alone a curling team, just be so focused and so precise in a sport that's so technically hard. Like curling is hard. It's a lot of, I always say curling's like playing the bass. Anyone can take a rock and shove it down the ice. Anybody can pick up a bass and go boo, boo, boo. But it's really hard to get good at both those things. And just to see how good both those teams are playing, it's mind blowing. And, I want to, especially on the men's side, Brad Gushue played Mouat in both those finals. And, Brad Gushue is not just an amazing, curling team and an amazing skip himself, but, they've been in a lot of finals. They've qualified at a lot of slams. It's not like they're nervous. Like, it's not like Bruce is playing teams that kind of, want to sneak one out just because they're there and it's a big thrill. Like he is dominating world-class teams all the time. And that's not a knock at Gushue. Like they played great. And I loved kind of their attitude on the ice. There was a couple comments, one from Brendan, just, it'd be nice if we could just get a half shot out of them.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
totally.
If you're looking for a half shot, the other team is dialed in. But when they got that 3 in the first end, it just kind of felt like, well, pull the goalie sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then Homan kind of in the women's final, like she, I don't want to say I said the same thing when she got the deuce to start, but it kind of looked like, okay, well, Rachel's going into Rachel mode. But then Tiernzoni battled back to take the 1-point lead. And then when Homan, I think it was the 4th end, made that shot to the hole for 3, it was just like, here we go. Like,
it was silly. Just a silly shot. Crazy.
Yeah. And what I love about those teams, because I had the chance to interview them after the games, both of them are just so composed. Like, me as I work for the slams, obviously. I work in curling broadcasting, as we both do. And you kind of, sometimes it's hard not to let your view as a fan kind of sneak in.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of turned into a fan, and I was like, I think I asked Rachel, what was it? What did you say to the team after you kind of gave up the lead? And she just said, oh no, we just kind of regrouped and said, let's go do our thing. And it was just, they never lost sight in the confidence they have in themselves and their precision. And they just kind of had a simple comment, boom, came back, took the lead back with an amazing shot for 3 and never really looked back. So dominating. Mouat, Homan.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I agree. I thought they both were excellent. And I think you're right. Like the one horse race thing is so interesting because I think even, when I think back to, dominant seasons in the past, there's always at least one foil. I especially think of like the Martin Howard days, where it felt like those two teams were above everybody, but on any given moment, they could beat each other.
Yes.
It wasn't like, oh, Kevin Martin would just won every game or Glenn Howard won most of the games they played each other. Like it was a much more of a 2-horse race, or over time we've seen 3 or 4 teams be at the top, whatever. But yeah, you're right. Like right now, and it's so interesting because curling is getting better all the time, and we're getting new teams that are emerging into the slams, and like the game is improving all the time. Like I don't think any one of us would have thought that, you could have seen teams in this position, but they've both been so good. It's been really great to see. I just, before we move on from the Canadian Open, wanted to talk a little bit about, an interesting thing. Speaking of new teams coming on the scene, a couple new records at the slams for international teams. The first time 2 South Korean teams ever make the semifinals on the women's side. We had Team Gim and Team Ha both make the semifinals on the women's side of things. And then, Team Kim rather.
Team Kim,
yeah. And then there was also 4 Japanese teams in the main draw. We had Tabata, Kitazawa, Yoshimura, and Fujisawa. Tell me a little bit about that, Robbie. I mean, that's really great for the sport. Cool to see. How are you feeling about these kind of new teams coming up on the scene and playing so well?
Well, I think it's, if you're a Canadian team, it's scary. Like these teams, like, the way you worded it is they're coming on the scene, but they're not just coming on the scene. They're kind of blowing up the scene.
Yeah.
And, it's been talked about so many times, the differences in so many countries and how they train, and they have this amount of time to train. And, it was one thing when it was kind of starting to happen, but now, we're starting to see the results of it. And, I'll use Team Ha as an example because I watched their game pretty close on the broadcast. And, for a lot of people, they've been in a slam before, but, I think 3 or 4 max. And they're so young, but they're so precise, and they were fearless. I watched their game against Homan in the semi. That was kind of my designated sheet on the round of the rings.
Yep.
And they struggled. Well, the story was they struggled, but their struggle is like missing by, a foot, like not an open hit. I mean, like a freeze attempt, or, instead of making the perfect freeze, they tap it, 6 inches. And of course, against Rachel Homan, kiss that rock goodbye. But it's crazy how precise these teams are and how technically sound they are, how they're able to channel their emotions, not get too down on each other. And, we've seen it famously with Fujisawa since we first met her, over a decade ago, how positive they stay. And no matter what the scoreboard says, they're still in the game. So it just seems like they have a lot of physical precision, but also a lot of mental toughness. And that's a recipe for a lot of success. And it speaks volumes for Korea and how the sport's going over there. Another stat too, in Charlottetown, like at the Hearing Life Tour Challenge, there was 4 Scottish men's teams in the field.
Yeah,
that's a lot for Scotland. And I chatted to Hammy on one of the broadcasts this week, and he was just talking about the level of competition over there, and the amount of effort going into the training and how it works. And as I said earlier, we talked about it for years as Canadian curling fans. We knew this day was going to come, but I think we're here.
Well, and we talked about it before, like it's for Scotland especially, it's like, I think in Canada we think of curling often coming in generations, where it's almost like a 10-year gap. It's like, you kind of have this block of teams that's very good, and then it takes about 10 years for that block of teams to kind of not necessarily age out. They may still continue playing, but to see like another group come underneath them, right? Like you think about Matt Dunstone and Brendan Botcher, like they're all kind of like 8 to 15 years younger than the skips that they're playing against. Not Brendan's not skipping now, but you know what I mean? Whereas Scotland, you talk about, there are 3 major teams, and Cameron Bryce is in there as well. It's all like a 3-year gap. It's like Mouat is the top and they're the oldest, and then like Ross White and his team is like 3 years younger than them, and then James Craik and their team is 3 years younger than them. And so that to me is so interesting that the generational gaps for those teams are also getting like quite a bit tighter. And I think that's an area where Canada maybe eventually is going to have to find a way to catch up. Hey, Will.
Yeah, that's Will Doherty making his broadcast debut.
I love when Will appears on our show.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly, John. It's just curling is in such a changing phase right now, and it's exciting. You know, as a fan, and you know, Canadians should be kind of excited for this. It's going to force us to elevate our game, and you know, it's exciting to not know what the future holds, and to be able to experience it all kind of play out. Another note I just want to talk about before we move on from the Canadian Open. How about that arena? Like, that is something like that. I think I was with Pierce Clark, who works with the Slams from Charlottetown with me, and we were referring to it as Buckingham Palace all week. You know, it's like,
it was beautiful. Yeah, the Silent Ice Center in Nisku, only a year old. The Grand Slam was sort of the first major event that they ever had there. And Robbie, I'm sure it's the same for you. The number of comments that I got from curlers, fans, even people online who weren't even in the venue, but just seeing what it looked like from people posting videos and whatever. I heard so many times, we need to be here every year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what a great spot potentially for the Hearing Life Tour Challenge as well. You know, there's 2 ice pads, and, you know, beautiful, not just a nice setup, but they just did the little things right. Like not just seats, comfy seats.
Yeah. Padded seats, that whole loge area up at the top where you could sit with the bar kind of banquette there. Perfect space for the après curl. There was like enough room to just keep everybody in the venue. You didn't have to leave. You just stay right there for the après. You know, close to Edmonton, close to Red Deer, even close to Calgary. It just definitely one of those things where, pardon me, everybody who was there felt like, wow, this is a destination that needs to be on the Slam calendar.
Oh, of course. And great staff too. I don't know how much you got to meet the staff and deal with the staff, but in my role as the MC, you know, you get to know quite a few of them just through going through sound checks and that stuff. And just world-class facility, world-class place. So hats off to the Silent Ice Center staff. But, well, it wouldn't be a podcast unless we had a little bit of drama. And
apparently this season, it's every podcast we're talking about a team change.
It's been the season of drama, and another team change coming up. I'm not sure if this one's as dramatic, but of course, Reed Carruthers, Derek Samagalski calling it a career. And you know what? Hats off, Derek, great guy. We'll certainly miss him. And but we've heard about some movements. Kyle Deering coming in. Give me your early thoughts on that.
Yeah, so you know, I think a lot of people may be surprised to see that news from Derek. Obviously, has been around the game for a long time and has played with Reed for a long time. I believe 14 seasons is the official number there, which is, you know, even for curlers who are really good friends off the ice, you just don't see them last that long. It just doesn't happen. Together. And so, you know, I think the only thing, you know, putting my insider hat on here, you know, I know in the past we have had announcements where it's, oh, so-and-so is stepping away, and they're not actually stepping away. But that is what happened here. So this was not a cut situation. This was not things aren't working the way, because, you know, we know Team Carruthers, they're sort of right on that Slam bubble right now. It hasn't been the best season. And we've seen so many team changes this year that I think there was some, you know, I saw some tweets and just people online saying, oh, wow, you know, Derek stepped away. Yeah, of course he did. But no, this was a full, you know, he just decided it was the right time. And he's got a young family, 2 kids now. And, you know, I think like we've said, 14 years is a long time, and it's a grind. And maybe if things aren't going the way you're hoping on the team and just with the way everything's gone, I think, Derek felt it was the right time to step away. And so, they bring Kyle Deering in. I know that, you know, I think that once Derek stepped away, that was sort of an obvious move. I know that Kyle and Jacques Gauthier, you know, we talked about them maybe pairing up in Manitoba. I think that was on the table. I think that was something that the two of them were discussing. But obviously, once the Reed offer came down for Kyle, you know, sort of a no-brainer for him. He's shooting second, but he's in the house. which I think is good. He was in the house with Karsten Sturme. He's had a lot of experience doing that. And, no shade to Kyle, but Catlin is probably the better sweeper at this point in time. Definitely a little bit bigger of a guy and has swept in that role before. So, I think it's a good move for the team all around. I think Catlin's a really good shooter and a good sweeper. So keeping him at third, I think makes sense, but having him on the brush, like a Colton Flash role, I think makes a lot of sense. And, I think Kyle's long been one of the underrated shot makers on tour. I think it was no accident that once he got on that Karsten Sturme team, that was the best that Karsten had ever played. I think he's a good teammate, sort of a drama-free guy. And, I think that's something Reed's always kind of looked for in his teams is, I think he wants to kind of keep things light and easy. And I think Kyle offers the opportunity for him to do that. And so, I think that's really where they're at. It's Kyle in, Derek out, Derek stepping back. And it'll be interesting to see if there's anything now for Jacques Gauthier in Manitoba or other options around the country to maybe parachute in somewhere. It'll be interesting to see. I know that, it's a tough situation because I know that for Jacques and for a lot of players, they don't want to see someone cut for them. No. That's always a tough thing to expect out of a team. And, oh, hey, I'd love to play for you, but that means someone's getting cut this late in the season. That's a tricky thing. So we'll see if maybe there's a fit for him somewhere. I hope there is. I think he's a great player, but Will loves the team change. He's so excited about the Reed Carruthers news, and aren't we all? But yeah, I think that's where we're at. I alluded to this on Twitter. I think we might not be done. We'll see. I've heard some whisperings of maybe another team change coming on the Canadian horizon. Can't give you any more information than that at this moment. And I also don't know if it's going to happen for sure. Yeah. But yeah, there might be one more to come. But for now, Kyle Deering in for Reed, and I think it's a solid move.
Well, it's almost like a domino effect. It's like every time we hear one, it's like that's got to be it. But then you think a little harder, and it's like, well, now there's a spot open over here. This guy's still, and yeah, it's going to continue. But honestly, I mean, my heart goes to people who may have been cut or let go. But as a fan, it's kind of exciting. It's something to follow, and it kind of gives it that feeling of wondering about the unexpected or the unknown of what's going to happen next. I think curling has been starving for something like that for a long time, and so it's fun. Kyle, great guy. Derek, we're gonna miss you, buddy. Like he's kind of been around since I played, and just a great guy. And I had the pleasure of meeting his family a few times, and certainly a right choice. If your heart is not in the game and it like it used to be, and or not so much not in the game, but your heart's at home and you want to be with your family, go be with your family. And thanks for the memories, pal.
Absolutely. And speaking of underrated players, I always felt like Derek was a guy who never really got his due. Great hitter, but also had an underrated touch game. Good sweeper, good manager of stones. And I agree.
And truly loved the game too. That's what I loved about Derek. He was a curler. Like he was just passionate guy.
100%. So we'll miss you, Derek. But excited for Kyle to get in at the Slam in St. John's, and looking forward to seeing where things go with that team. And speaking of the Slam in St. John's, Robbie, very quickly before we get to our interview with Isabella, St. John's, it's a quick turnaround for us. The Kioti National coming up in less than a week as you listen to this podcast and as we record it. What are you expecting in St. John's? I know you're a bit of the inside man when it comes to the Slams. You've been working with the Slams for a long time. I think it's a lot of people have been talking about this Slam. They're excited for it. Tell the fans what they can expect. Either if they're going to be in person at the Mary Brown Center or even watching on TV. What are you expecting in the St. John's Slam?
I think I'm expecting to see something that we haven't seen before on the Grand Slam of curling. And I think, curling in general, how many times have we listened to and read about in the past, say 15 years about how, events aren't what they used to be. We've gone from NHL arenas to, 7,000 seat arenas for Briars or Scotties or what have you. And then you go from that to a small arena. And it's like, that's all that's kind of ever talked about. But, this one's moving up, and it's not just moving up, it's moving up in a big way. we talked about the amazing Silent Ice Center and a lot of those venues. Like I think in Charlottetown were 1,400. This is just shy of 7,000, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's had pro teams in there and world-class events. It's a level of excitement that I have certainly never ever experienced. In my almost decade of working with the Grand Slams. Just to have something to look forward to. I know there was a few years ago we had announced that we were going to Vegas, and then COVID kind of swept in and the season was canceled. So it kind of feels like since then, this is like a real shot of momentum. And with Nick and the curling group coming in to take over, they promised us big things. And here we go, a sold out 7,000 seat arena and, a chance for the sport to really shine and the chance for, the athletes, the top athletes in the world in their sports to really shine and show the world what they can do in a world-class facility, in a world-class city. It's obviously on the ice going to be the Gushu show.
Yeah.
They love their goose. But you know what, Brad's been an icon in this sport and in this country for, over 2 decades. And it's kind of nice to really see him be able to, I mean, I guess we saw it at the Briar too, but the Slams, it's a little different. It's the Briars is the best teams in the country. This is the best teams in the world. And, it's kind of like that next level of, okay, we saw Brad win the country. Now can he, beat and I think the storyline naturally sets it up perfect. Will we see a Gushu Mouat 3?
Yeah.
Totally. The ultimate showdown.
The trilogy. Yeah. And I know that obviously COVID was a complicating factor in all of this, but I think when you saw the Briar in St. John's in 2017 at what was then called the Mile One Center, now the Mary Brown Center, it seems crazy to me it took 7 years to get back there. Actually almost 8 years, really. The Briar was in March of 2017, and this is December of 2024. Just the way that crowd embraced Brad Gushu, the way that they embraced like all the curlers, and I know talking to some of the curlers too, it's not just the Brad Gushu show, but I do know that like teams are actually kind of like actively looking forward to being the villain. Like knowing like when we play Brad, the crowd is going to hate us and that's going to be really fun. And, you and I have talked on this podcast a lot about how curling needs more villains. And I know that teams don't necessarily want to make themselves the villain, but they know if you're playing Brad Gushu on a Friday night in St. John's, you are the 100% the villain, whether you like it or not. And just to hear from teams being like, I'm excited for that. I'm ready to get booed out of the building. I think is, that kind of stuff is just great. Is just great for curling.
And I think too, St. John's is just such an iconic city in Canada, and anything they do amazing. It's no secret, and the personalities there. It's just going to be a rocking event. I am so excited for it. I'm going a day early, just to get climatized. I said, and just be ready for as the MC. It's one thing to announce for 12 to 1,700 people, but 7,000 is a different story. So I want to be at the top of my game. I know the whole staff, the whole crew, they want to be at the top of their game. Like I'm sure you and the streaming broadcast crew are too. And it's going to be a world-class event in a world-class city. I can't wait. From the sandbar to the rock.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. So make sure if you're in the area, I know single draw tickets have been hard to come by, but keep your eyes peeled to grandslamofcurling.com. There may be some more tickets released as we get closer to the event. Otherwise, fully sold out. Very much looking forward to it. It's going to be an absolute party in St. John's, and hopefully, even if you can't be there, you'll enjoy it on TV as well. And now it is time to get to our feature interview. Isabella Wranå, the current reigning Grand Slam of Karaoke champion. Excited to see what she does in St. John's. That's going to be a party as well. We're going to need to see a show from her. Currently ranked world number 9, also the reigning defending world mixed doubles champion with her brother Rasmus. We talk about all of that. So without any further delay, here it is, our interview with Isabella Wranå. All right, we are pleased to be joined by the Grand Slam of Karaoke champion, the world number 9, Isabella Wranå. And I've been working on my pronunciation. How am I doing?
It's getting better and better for every time you say it, I would say.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
By the end of this season, I am going to have it I'm going to have it dialed.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm ready.
The start is really good.
The start is good? Okay, I know I need to work on the end.
Yeah, the O.
Can I try?
Wranå.
Yeah.
Isabella Wranå.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good.
Okay. Well, okay, Robbie. Good for you. Just gives you a little smile. We'll work on it. I will be dialed by the end of the season. Okay. Before we start the interview, Isabella, I do have the top 4 for you. This is 4 questions. You're just going to give me the first answer that pops into your head. Okay.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Who is a curler you have never played with before that you would most want to?
Alina Pats.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
Like that.
If you know that both sets of rocks are good, there's no problem with either set of rocks. What color are you taking?
Red.
If there was a world where you could ride any animal, which animal would you most want to ride?
Something that flies. So I'm also very afraid of birds. So, but
That's maybe going to come up later in this interview, actually.
So well, a big bird. That's very nice.
Okay.
Something that flies, but not a bird.
But not, yeah, just a big something. We'll bring pterodactyls back. Final question. How would your bitterest rival describe you?
I don't know. Maybe annoying.
I feel like I will actually say I have talked to other curlers about you, and they all say that they really like you. So I feel like even your rivals are even like, yeah, Isabella's pretty cool, and I just like her.
That's very nice to hear.
They say that about everyone, don't they, John? No,
they absolutely do not. Especially when that person is not around, Robbie. They will say whatever the hell they want to.
Exactly. Well, I want to jump in here because I talked about this GSOK for the first time this summer, and Nick and I had a chat on the phone. And he had a vision. I feel like Charlottetown was great. It was fun. Nisku was more of, I think, what the vision was, and people were really into it. There was great performances. There was slower performances, faster performances. Yours checked all the boxes: choreography, costumes, of course, playing the hometown ABBA. Tell us your thoughts. And did you think you were going to win?
So beforehand, we knew we weren't going in like halfway on this one. We wanted to make sure we have a good show, we have a choreography and a good dance and some great equipment, or the hats and everything. So we knew we would have a good chance, and we're that kind of team. We've always been into singing, dancing, and so I figure we would have a good chance. But there are some really good singers on the tour, so you
and surprisingly, not people, like there's some people you'd look at and you'd say, oh, I bet you they can sing, but there's some curlers I find that they're not the most talkative people all the time, but then they get on stage and they blow your mind with their voice. Are you a singer?
Yeah, for sure.
Or is singing something you do regularly, or is it just something that, in the spirit of the moment, you're not shy, you're an entertainer, and you get up there and just rocked it?
So I will sing a lot in my car, I would say. Mm-hmm. And when I was younger, I went to musical school and singing lessons and stuff like that. And I also play the guitar decently, and some other instruments as well. So music has been a big part of my life per se. But when I made a choice to go full into curling, it has taken less place, I would say, but I still enjoy it, and I like being on stage, and yeah.
I mean, you ripped it. I mean, so I kind of knew going into it because I hung out with your team earlier in that week, and we were talking about the Grand Slam of Karaoke, and I knew that you guys were going to put on a show. But I have to say, I don't want to blow too much smoke up your ass here, but your voice was like incredible. Like, you're a very good singer, and like stage presence too. Like you said, you enjoy being on stage. That was evident. Like you had the crowd like in the palm of your hand.
Thank you so much for those kind words. No, I think it was a good setup for us as well. Lots of curlers, but also fans. They are cheering us on, and I think everyone likes likes a show like that. And I would say like the singing performance was fine when I looked at it afterwards, but I'm really happy with the show.
The show is amazing. And I want to, sorry, Robbie, I know you want to jump in here too, but I just, I was talking to, all people who will remain nameless about your performance. And I had heard a rumor, and maybe you can clarify this for me or not, but you actually had to like put in some work on the song because when you were just learning English, you actually made up a bunch of words for the Mamma Mia song, and you had to like relearn the English words. Is that true?
Yeah. So when I was about 3 or 4 years old, Mamma Mia was my favorite song. So I would sing it like Mamma Mia, hira gora gera, Mamma hakulala sisu, and that's with me ever since. And it's probably around. My parents probably has 50 videos of me singing it that way because I thought that was the lyrics because I didn't know English. So kind of waned it there. But yeah, so I have all those videos when me singing Mamma Mia in like some kind of language.
Isabella, if it makes you feel better, I've been a full-time musician for about 15 years and I still don't know the words to half the songs. And if you can make it sound close enough, hey, you said it yourself. You sell the sizzle, not the steak. And that's what it's all about. So you nailed it. Now, the entertainer in me and the wrestling fan in me has to ask. This is a quick turnaround. We're home from Nisku. You won the title there, but St. John's is just around the corner. Any message you want to send out to other competitors or maybe a sneak peek of what we can expect?
I think we're gonna stick to the theme show, and we're of course gonna sing as well. And maybe we'll have some guests on the stage. We'll see.
Oh, some guests. Okay. Okay. Right. I'm excited to see what you have in store, because I think that's the thing is, you know, you won, which is great, but now you're going to have to continually defend the title.
Yeah, and with all the great singers on this tour now, it's gonna be tough. And Mattia was telling me after that he's coming for me in St. John.
I'll just say, look, you know, I know Mattia was the first champion, but you know, I'll put this out there. His stage show needs some work.
Yep.
Needs some work.
I don't disagree, John.
He's got a good voice, but he's chose 2 ballads. There's not a lot of stage presence. The show needs a little more. It can't just be handsome guy sings ballad. We need a show. You've set the bar high. Team Wranå has set the bar very high.
Yeah, so I think he might bring in some dancers. I don't know. Put up a show. I want to see it.
I'd love to see Amos in the background, just like lifting 2 of them up, like pumping them up or something, like 9 feet in the air.
I feel like Amos is a pretty shy guy. I feel like it might take a lot to get him on stage, but if he's up there, he will have a presence just by being there.
You know what? Maybe it'll inspire them for a team performance.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Mattia and the Mozaners.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. I would love that. Isabella, I want to talk about curling with you as well. This is ostensibly a curling podcast. And I think, you know, fair to say, you know, your start to the season so far for your team has been good, but not, you know, maybe not exactly where you're expecting. You've made a couple semifinals, couple quarterfinals. You've missed the playoffs in a few events. You know, how do you feel about where your team's at so far this season? What are some things that you and your teammates are working on here to, you know, find your way back into some of those finals and you know, competing in those big games?
Yeah, so as you said, we had a bit of a slow start to the season, and it feels like I don't know, sometimes it just doesn't work on the ice, and it's you can't really put your finger on it, and then you start a new event, and then all of a sudden everything feels so much better. So that combined with some technical training on the ice set us up for a bit more qualifications and also a few semifinals. And I think we're still trying to find our top form this season. So we're still putting a lot of hours onto practice ice, and hopefully we will just make some more shots, and that's really what's been haunting us this year. We've been doing too much of 75% shots instead of 100%, and when you're competing against the world's best, you're gonna have to make more 100%.
I want to jump in on that. One of my favorite memories of your team, Isabella, is, of course, a couple of years ago when you won the Princess Auto Players Championship. You guys were dialed in. Everything was just being made, not just made, but made perfectly. You weren't just sort of getting a hit and roll. You were rolling smack behind the guards. Like, what's been the challenge? And I'm asking this because you're a younger team. What's the challenge of being able to do that once versus being able to do that most of the time? Like we see the Mouats, the Homans, the top kind of elite tier teams do. And what do you think the team has to do to get there?
So I think it has a lot to do with the gaining experience. So even myself, I played for a long time. I need to get the experience of playing those semifinals and quarterfinals in those big games, and also finding, like, you want to hire your lowest level basically on throwing. So you won't see Bruce Mouat playing a really shitty game that often. So I think it's about that, having that high consistency and good throws and on all players on the team, really. And so we know we know we got it, but we just gotta make sure we're delivering that more frequently, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I think one thing that is interesting about where you're at is, we as Canadians have kind of grown up in this era of there being sort of one dominant Swedish team at a time, like both on the men's and women's side. Like obviously it's been Nicholas for so long, and then it was Pia Lindholm before that. And for the women, it's been, Anna Hasselborg for the last number of years, Annette Norberg before that, Sigfridsson in the middle there. But now, there's kind of this two-headed monster in Sweden, you and Anna Hasselborg. Can you tell me a little bit about that rivalry? Like, I think in Canada, when we think of two top teams, we think of there being like a little bit of bad blood, not necessarily like in an angry way, but just in a competitive way. Is it similar for you with Team Hasselborg? Or are you always kind of looking over your shoulder for them? Like, tell me a little bit about that rivalry and how that's kind of fostered itself over the last few years.
Yeah, so we're actually from the same curling club, me and Anna. So we've known each other for many years, and I've known all the girls on Hasselborg teams for a very long time. And of course, it's tricky when it's only one team that can qualify for the Europeans and the Worlds. But so of course, it's some rivalry there, but we're all friends. It's a small community curling in Sweden, so you gotta stay professional, and it's all good. But of course, there's that extra. You want to beat them even more, and you want to qualify in competitions, and you want to make sure you're doing better than them, of course. But they would say the exact same thing about us. But I think it's also gaining us that we have each other, so we can get some good competition at home, and also kind of, I think it's been good for them having us chasing them a bit as well. Just they need to sometimes, when we got very close a couple of years back, and I feel like they've kind of turned. They're starting to becoming really, really good again, and not that they ever have been bad, but you know what I mean. They had a few seasons where they weren't as good as before. And I think us chasing them is probably helping them, and us trying to beat them is helping us as well. We know when we're out there competing against the rest of the world, like if we can beat Hasselborg, we can probably beat the best team in the world. So.
And I think it works both ways. Even if you ask, I've never asked them this, but if you ask Team Hasselborg, I'm sure it helps them elevate their game as well, knowing that you guys are right there with them with the same goals, pretty near same skill level and so close within the rankings. And, you're a regular Slam team now. Obviously, you have been for a few years now. I think about it as a musician. I played in a band years ago, and we live in a small town, and we kind of became the cool young band. We had messages from so many musicians in town saying, hey, if the guitar player drops out, I'm interested. Or if the bass player drops out, I'm interested. And we were kind of just saying, why don't you guys go put a band together, get really good, make us work harder to keep you guys down, and then the whole scene wins. Is it sort of similar in curling, just kind of having two world-class teams in the same kind of small region?
Yes. So that was exactly those words. What was I? That was what I was planning to say, but English, But yeah, exactly like that. So I think it's good that we have each other, even though sometimes it can be very frustrating as well.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead, John.
No, you're good.
No, I was just going to comment on how hard, like your team, how hard they are to get along with as well.
My team.
Sarcastically. They're like one of the nicest. They're the nicest people you'd ever meet, of course. So, anyway.
Well, I was curious too, like, you obviously just went through this for the Europeans, and it seems with the two of your teams playing off against each other so often, it seems to be the format that is favored in Sweden is a best of 7 series. And we don't usually see that in Canada. It's often just, we have the whole tournament, the Brier, the Scotties, you have a 1-game final. I know the Olympic trials is going to switch to a 3-game final next year, but what is that like, playing a 7-game series against the same team and you're just going out against them over and over and over again? Like, I have to think that's a bit of a weird way to curl, because we don't really do that in any other facet of the sport. It's all tournament play.
Yeah, so I think it's a good system for us because we don't really have that many teams. I think it works if you're high enough on the rankings, you get the chance to be in those kind of qualifiers, and while playing them, there is special, and it's very. You have to be mentally prepared to play the same team over and over again. And it can be tough to get a rough start because you're kind of associating, like it's hard to tell a difference between game 1 and 2 because you're in the same curling rink on the same sheet, throwing against the same people. And So that can be challenging if you ever get a rough start, but also in your favor if you get a good start of that series. But it's usually the better team that wins. So it's a fair and square system, and I like that it's over seven games. So it leaves nothing up to a picked stone or bad ice or anything like that. It's if you win a best out of 7 series, you were better that weekend.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. It's pretty hard to say the system failed you if one team, if you beat the other team 4-7 first, or if you lose. The reason I'm bringing that up is because there's, if you lived in Canada and you're a curling fan, that's 90% of the discussions we hear is about the format of our national championships, how we declare a winner. We're not going to get into that because that's a whole podcast on its own, let alone just an episode.
And it's boring.
Yes. And it's been mentioned.
It's been mentioned a few times before. Now, Isabella, every time I have a guest on the show, I do like to try to dig up some dirt about them, some inside info. You actually kind of already spilled the tea a little bit at the start of the episode, but one of the things I was told about you is that you are deathly afraid of birds. Where does that come from? Why are you so afraid of birds?
I don't know. I'm gonna spill some more tea. My brother doesn't love birds either.
Oh, so it's maybe a family thing.
Not as bad as me. So I think we had a bird flying into our house when we were younger, and my mom was a bit scared, and the bird, as you should be with a bird in a house. And then maybe we kind of thought that birds were, I don't know, scary somehow. But then it's just gradually gotten worse, and now I can't really stand a meter from a the pet. What they're called in Sweden, we call them duvor.
Pigeons.
There are a lot of them in Toronto.
Pigeons.
Pigeons. Yes.
Yeah.
They are
Well,
the worst.
I did hear also that in Charlottetown you had like a run-in with some seagulls. Is that true?
Oh,
Did I? Maybe.
Maybe.
you didn't happen to have a
I
mackerel.
recommend that, probably.
You didn't have a mackerel in your pocket or anything, or a fish in your hand or anything like that.
If that would have happened, I would have.
Can confirm they are vicious when they want to be.
Mhm.
I have a Red Ryder BB gun back in the closet. If you ever want to just take it around, I don't know if it would have the power to even hurt a bird, but it might scare it off.
No, but it's something I probably need to I get over pretty soon, because one time I was at the square in Stockholm and pigeons came flying towards me, and I ran into a little kid and he fell. Wasn't the best.
Oh, that's great.
That's got to be a tough thing to explain to a child. Like, oh, sorry, I was running because I was scared of a bird.
Or to the mom.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, can we just backpedal a little bit? Rasmus is scared of birds as well. You mentioned that.
So he's not as bad as me, but he wouldn't want to have a bird in his hand or anything like that. No.
I guess when I think of Rasmus, I just picture a man who could lift a car over his head if he wanted to and crush anything. And now I learn he's scared of birds.
Yeah,
There's a lot on the Broom brothers.
Just remember, I have a microphone at every Grand Slam event, and I have a very good memory. So we're going to put that one in the bank.
So do not ever try to pull a bird prank on me, because I will.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No. I wouldn't mess with you anyway, Isabella.
I would, and I will. So don't
that.
even worry about
Do
it.
not bring a pigeon. Oh.
Speaking of your brother, you are the reigning world mixed doubles champion, playing with your brother. And I was curious, I've talked to a lot of curlers before who have either successfully or unsuccessfully played mixed doubles with their spouse. We sometimes see, that sometimes it works. Jennifer Jones, Brent Langs, it seemed to work well for them. Jeff Walker and Laura Walker, I don't think worked very well for them. And Laura plays with Kirk now. What's it like playing with your brother? Is it sort of a similar thing to playing with, with a partner? Like, I have to imagine it's not as easy as just like playing with someone random, or is it? Is it an advantage playing with your brother? Tell me what it's like playing mixed doubles with your brother.
So for me and Rasmus, I think we get along very, very well, and we've been raised in curling the same way, pretty much. We're not in disagreements about strategy or tactics that often, and I think we both have a pretty big trust in each other that we're gonna make a good call or make a good sweeping call, or so it's been working out very well. But that was one thing we thought maybe could be a problem before, and then it turned out that we are actually pretty good together. But when we were younger, that was not the case. We played mixed double then also, but I guess we both grew up a bit since then, and we're also very kind of different in a way, where I'm very outspoken, as you might know, and he is a bit more chill, and I can also get a bit angrier easier, but he's like, oh. So it's a good combination, I would say.
Yeah, it is a good combination. A lot of good shooting there, a lot of good sweeping. It's pretty impressive, to be honest. So good luck to you guys as you continue. I want to ask about another thing. John, you made this point to me one time. The official team name of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we worked on Wranå earlier, I might get this wrong, but is it Team Pantera?
Yeah, so Team Pantera. So it's very similar to English.
So I guess my first question is, why is that the official name? Is that it's a sponsor, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Do you think that's something that curling needs to explore maybe in the future that other teams should try? Like, could you get more money if that was your official name, if instead of last names? Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it could be. And we have this tradition of calling the teams by their last name. And I think somehow it's going to be hard to step away from that as well. But I don't see any problem with having like, oh, this is Team Pantera Wranå. I don't know. And
the reason I ask is my Tuesday night team, like I play in a beer league at home. We go by Team Yogi's Food and Bar. And we're
sponsored.
Seen as, oh yeah. And tell you what, we've got an upside. Like, we're looking pretty sharp early on in the year. And we have an Instagram account and everything. Just putting that out there. No, but in seriousness though, like, cause I said that, I was like, what, they're giving us money. It's obviously nothing like you guys get, but they kind of said, what can I give you? And I said, well, let's just never mind Doherty, because I skipped the team. It's some good friends of mine. And I said, let's just call ourselves Team Yogis. So every time we're in a tournament, anytime, and I'm talking literally in PEI, not on a Grand Slam nationally televised event. But do you think that's I know I kind of asked this earlier, but do you think realistically that's a direction that teams might take?
I don't know, actually. I know a few teams. It's more common here in Europe, and it's more common in our nationals and stuff like that in Sweden as well, that you have a team name from a sponsor. And I guess has been the tradition here. But we know that for the rest of the world in curling, it's all about last names. And I don't know if everyone made that change, maybe the sponsors could get some more publicity in, like, I don't know, papers writing about the teams, or even on TV, or even when you talk about the team, or, like that. But I don't know if it's going to bring more to those companies rather than having their logos on our shirts.
Yeah. Well, I know in Japan, that's a big deal as well. All the Japanese teams are named after their sponsors. So maybe I just mostly think that, you guys it's just a kick-ass name. And also, I feel like crossover opportunity with the band Pantera, who is a heavy metal band. I don't know if you're familiar with Pantera at all, but I feel like your team coming out to like Walk by Pantera, would be pretty sick.
You're giving me some ideas. I love it.
Grand Slam of Karaoke, actually. Now, I would love to see Isabella Wranå do some fill-in Selmo vocals. Would be amazing. Now, we only have a couple more questions here, but you brought this up earlier. Part of your Grand Slam of Karaoke costume was these crocheted hats. Your team has been you've sort of become known for these crocheted hats. You also wear often a crocheted headband while you're playing. What is the deal with your team's crochet habit? Tell us more about that.
So it's all Maria's fault. She got us all into it. And then it's like an addiction. You start crocheting one hat, and then you learn how to do this and that. And then I think we all got pretty hooked, and it's very fun. And you don't need Wi-Fi to crochet. You can do it on the flight. You can do it while watching a movie, or while watching a series, or so it's just a good hobby, and you can, practice your wrist or.
You don't have to make it have a curling crossover. It doesn't have to be part of training, but I just feel like it's becoming, it's starting to become a bit of a legend on the road. You're giving away your hats to people. People are starting to, I'm still waiting for mine. I'm hoping in St. John's that's going to appear for me. I do have a huge head, so I think it will take some extra work on your behalf. But yeah, I feel like this is a cool thing. People, the Halifax teams, Nova Scotia teams, the fans wear the big yellow rain hats. I feel like maybe
the Blue Nosers,
Team Wranå, we need the crocheted hats.
Yeah, it's I just think it's a good hobby, and nowadays you also have so many screens everywhere, and yeah, it's nice to do something else rather than you scroll in on some media platform. But I do that as well.
It's about the combination, right? Everything in moderation, I think they say.
Yep. Good point. Listen, one more. We talked, or actually, you know what, John? I'm going to ask one more, and then I'll let you ask one more.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to hear about, you know, you were there and lived it in person. I want to hear all about it. But what would you say, Isabella, in the next phase of your career, as you look down the road? I just want to ask one more curling related question. What would be your ultimate goal in this sport, and what do you think it's going to take to get there? So
my ultimate goal is to play
in the next 10 years.
10 years. It's
I'm not
to
saying
play in the Olympics for sure, and that's a dream I've had for a very long time. And so we know it's going to take a lot of work to get there, and we're kind of close, but we all know that we need to take this next step to be one of the best teams in the world. And while we go to the Olympics, we would like the goal there is also to take a medal, and so that's the long-term goal. And for the short-term goals, I think it's getting some more slam wins and trying to qualify for some championships and all of that, getting some experience, but also having fun. I think it's so important that you have fun on the way. So I was telling my team after we went to West Edmonton Mall, I was like, can you imagine this? We get to do this, and just being in a mall, making a video.
You know what? I'm going to stop you there. That's a perfect segue for John's next question. And I just wanted to ask you a totally boring curling question, just so you could kind of reset your mind to jump back into the fun. John, take it away.
Well, yeah, West Edmonton Mall. I feel like, we had a great time. We had a great afternoon there. You're right. You were lucky to get to hang out with me for 4 hours at West Edmonton Mall. But I was curious, you were easily the most excited about the rides, the roller coaster, this giant swings, all that. You would have happily stayed in the theme park all day, I feel like. But when it came to the go-karts, you were a little bit tentative. What's up with that? Why I felt like when I knew we were going to go-karting, after I saw you on the rides, I thought Isabella's going to go wild on the go-karts, but you were chill.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know. I haven't went go-karting that much in my life. So it was pretty much like the second time I did it. And, Maria and the girls, they are so into Formula One, and it was very important for them. And, I wouldn't say I was... I was trying my best though, so I wouldn't probably gone any quicker if I tried. But then Linda got over me in the total rankings because she had one lap that was quicker than mine, and the rest of them were like 1 minute slower. No, not. So I feel like the overall, I was at least not the worst. I was second worst, or I don't know.
Linda was definitely driving slower than you on the whole, I would say.
Yeah, you can. Maria probably has that result board printed and put on the wall right now, so you can see the rest of our what do you call it, like split times.
Yeah.
For the
race. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was depressing that I lost to Maria and Almeida, but, I think next time we're anywhere near a go-kart track, we will have a rematch, and I look forward to you and I being on top.
Yeah, and maybe I can do some practicing at home before as well, and then we can shock them. That would be very fun because they think I'm going to be in the back.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's like
No
Ricky.
way.
You guys are like Ricky Bobby and Jean Girard.
Mhm.
I don't know
We
if you
can
ever saw
team up
talent.
to beat Maria if you want to.
All right. Well, thanks, Isabella. It was so great to have you on the show. Great to catch up, and we'll see you in St. John's in a week.
Yeah, see you. I'm looking forward to it.
Woo!
Yay!
Good luck, Isabella. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you have it. Isabella Wranå, loved our chat. She just, Robbie, you and I had talked about this off air, but kind of her and her team, I think, with the feature we did at West Edmonton Mall, being the Grand Slam of Karaoke champion, I think fans are starting to realize it's something you and I have maybe known for a little while, but truly like one of the more entertaining and engaging teams on tour.
Oh, the most. I'd put them number one. And I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, no, I love it.
I mean, Schuster's funny. Like their
Yeah.
team is pretty goofy, but Wranå's they're just in a league of their own when it comes. Just great. She's just such a. What I love about that team is there's 4 different personalities. It's not like they're all the same and there's 4 of them and they're all loud or they're all nice, or like they're all different. And when it comes together, they just work so well together. Like Isabella, as you heard, she's so very calculated and very kind of down to earth, but she can come out with some one-liners that are absolutely hysterical. They should have a podcast. They should have a Team Wranå podcast. It'd be amazing. It would
getting to hang out with them that whole afternoon. I mean, I had met them before, but didn't know them super well. I was kind of done playing on tour when they were kind of like really getting going on tour, and so our paths did not cross very much. But yeah, getting to know them, just like you said, super funny, super down to earth. And I just loved that Isabella mentioned that, right? You talked about, you asked her like, what's your ultimate goal? And she said, well, I'd like to go to the Olympics and win a medal, but I also just want to have fun the whole time that I'm curling, and I think, to have it seems like that's important for their whole team too. And I think that really works. And, for some teams, what makes a team go is that they're all super competitive and they all take it super seriously all the time. And that's how they tap into their mojo. And I think it's funny and fun that for Isabella and her team, it is tapping into their fun side is what makes them, the best versions of themselves. I thought that was great. And yeah, if you haven't watched the feature that I did with them at West Edmonton Mall, it was an absolute blast.
I watched
Make
it.
sure you check it out. It's on the Grand Slam of Curling YouTube channel, and it was really fantastic. So anyway, it is the end of the show, which means, Robbie, it's time to play a game. This is where I'm going to put your brain, your mind to the test. The game this week, pretty easy. You made your broadcasting debut. I want to see how much of your head was blinded by the lights, blinded by the moment. Robbie, I need you to tell me all 4 games that were being played while you were broadcasting and the final scores.
Both draws or just one?
Just we'll go with the one. We'll do the 4 p.m. or you can choose. I'll
choose the. Let me start with the late draw, and then
I'll let you do the. We'll just do the late draw. We're already over time, so yeah, the late draw, the semifinals.
Tiranzoni Kim.
That's correct. Yes.
Homan Ha.
That's correct.
Gushu Schwaller.
Correct.
Mouat. It wasn't Jacobs.
Nope.
Retornes.
It was Retornes.
Let's try the 4 o'clock real quick.
Okay. Yeah, you just give me the games in the 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Gushu Adine.
Correct.
Dunstone Mouat.
Correct.
Retornes. Oh shoot! What is that? I was a deer in the headlights for this. I was just literally like. Okay, I'm gonna move on from Retornes for a second. I'm gonna say
you got Gushu and Adine, Mouat, Dunstone.
Mouat, Dunstone, Gushu, Adine. Jacobs. Mouat.
No, you've already said Mouat. Mouat played Dunstone.
No. Jacobs. Schwaller?
Yep.
Yeah. Jacobs Schwaller. And then I know I'm missing Retornes.
And
who did they play? Oh, dear.
You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to do the 4 p.m. draw. You're like, let me try to do it.
Just trying to flex. Oh, goodness gracious.
You want me to give you a hint?
Yeah.
If I give you a hint,
one hint.
You'll get it 100% if I give you
one
a hint, though.
Okay.
Okay. They're Scottish.
Oh, White.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ross White. Okay,
You know
now
and that was a good game. That was a really, really good game.
night draw. What were the scores? We'll start with this was the first one you said. Tirinzoni Kim.
Oh, that was a really good game. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the numbers right. I know it was tied up coming home.
It was
5-4.
5-4. You got it. Tirinzoni wins. Okay, next one, Ha and Homan.
That was a one-sided game.
Yep.
Homan won. See, I can never remember the last shot of the game and what gets added on.
I know there was nothing added on. There's no last shot added on.
8-3?
6-2.
6-2. Yeah,
6-2. Okay, and then you got Mouat Retornaz.
Mouat Retornaz. That was Retornaz trying to chase. I'm going to say 7-3.
4-2.
Okay.
Few blanks in that one, but yes, I commentated that one too, and I probably would not have remembered it was 4-2.
It's all the way
are so hard. The numbers are hard.
I know. The numbers are impossible. And then
you got Guju and Yannick Schwaller.
Guju and Yannick Schwaller. That was also a good game. 8-6.
6-2.
Yeah, but okay. That wasn't a 6-2 game though. Like that was
closer
there was
game,
a lot of there was a couple ends where in that one where I think it was the second end, Guju was set up for like we were talking about 8-enders in the booth.
Oh wow.
And then I think it was Yannick with his last one just made a come around like back 4. I think he ended up drawing the 4-foot to give Brad Steele a 1.
Gotcha.
That, it was just, but that was
Benoit, you mean?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, not bad, Robbie. You remembered all 7 of the 8 games. You got 1 of the scores right. Not bad. Not bad overall. Impressed with you. Thank you all so much for listening. Sorry we were a little late with this episode. We were still recovering from Nisku, but we will be back after St. John's. We're both looking forward to the Kioti National. Hopefully you are too. You can follow us on every platform at the Broom Brothers. We also have a YouTube page if you want to watch the video of this episode and see even the video of us talking to Isabella. All of that is also on our YouTube page, which is at the Broom Brothers. And if you like the show, tell a friend. Please rate and review it on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening to it. We would greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you back here in a couple weeks. Take care.
See you then.